Akshat Choudhary is the founder and CEO of BlogVault, MalCare, and WP Remote, all very successful WordPress tools designed for complete website management. He has been a member of the WordPress community for almost a decade. Today, he's talking about how he failed to focus on marketing and building an audience before launching his products, but how they still landed on their feet and built him a multi-million-dollar AAR business. So let's get started.
Hi, I'm Akshat Choudhary, and today I'll talk about my experience building BlogVault, uh, which is a multi-million dollar ARR business. And the way when we started BlogVault was essentially we started with a mistake. These are some of the products you might have seen. BlogVault is a WordPress backup service. MalCare is a WordPress security service. WP Remote lets you manage multiple websites, and Migrate Guru lets you migrate WordPress sites with a click of a button. While building BlogVault, we made many mistakes. Uh, but fortunately, at the end of it, we still landed on our feet and we still survived and succeeded. So over the next half an hour or so, I'll talk about how, how the mistakes we made, the lessons we learned from it, and yeah, how we still succeeded. So the number one mistake we made was basically when I started BlogVault, I was an outsider. I was an engineer working in a software company, and I barely knew anything about WordPress. I did know that WordPress is used to create blogs, but I think my experience of WordPress at that time was limited to WordPress.com. And had I known what WordPress really is about, then I would have done things completely different. Uh, Instead, when we got started, we actually had the wrong business model around WordPress. This was around 2010. Uh, and while SaaS is still, has very limited presence in WordPress, you still see quite a few SaaS products out there. But in 2010, there was hardly a thing called SaaS in WordPress. In fact, overall on the internet, you would see SaaS products, but uh, it was not the rage that it is today. WordPress at that time was all about plugins, and you had all sorts of plugins and people releasing new plugins all the time. And these plugins were free. Actually, WordPress has had plugins free for a long time, and even today, a lot of it is free. But in 2010, the commercial market was definitely a lot more limited. So it was either free or people were charging one time for a plugin, and you would get a premium product to use for your lifetime. There was no recurring revenue anywhere. So uh, BlogVault has always been a recurring revenue SaaS-based product, and in fact, all our products are similar. We are all our products are recurring revenue based and SaaS powered. But in 2010 timeframe when we started, there was barely any recurring revenue products in WordPress. Today, you see even regular plugins. Most of the developers have moved to a recurring business model where they require you to get you pay on a recurring basis to get updates. But in 2010, you'd pay once and you would get the product for forever. So we naturally got a huge amount of pushback from the whole community, uh, or, and from the market when we try to sell our product to them. But if I was part of the WordPress ecosystem, or had I known more about WordPress, how WordPress functions, I would have definitely done things differently. I would not have I would not have built a SaaS product. Almost certainly not have built a SaaS product. But then had I done that, I would not be giving this talk. I think because we built a SaaS product, uh, we had a lot of advantages associated with it, which we obviously the whole market recognizes today. The power of recurring revenue really helped us. Also, we totally believe that backups and even security today should be a SaaS, and it should not be sold as a plugin. So, so yeah, those things definitely helped us in hindsight. Now, that was the first mistake. The second mistake we made was we entered a crowded market. Even today, there are like so many backup plugins. But in 2010 too, there were quite a few backup plugins. Vast majority of them were free. And the strangest thing was that the day we launched BlogVault, within a week, WordPress was released. And WordPress was made by Automatic, the creators of WordPress. Uh, or so so yeah, it was very strange, frankly, to be starting a company or launching a product where you had like a behemoth launch a competing product at the same time, and they received like tons and tons of press. Everyone was talking about it, including TechCrunch, and every single tech blog was talking about them. And they had fantastic market. They actually had this thing called golden ticket, or which let you put you in a waiting queue so that you could pay them. So people were literally waiting to pay them money uh, to use their product, whereas we were nobodies. Yeah, nobody really knew us. Nobody really cared about us, and yeah, it's not the greatest feeling at that time. We were like this, the uncool geeks. We were standing in the corner, staring at our phones while the party continued, and yeah, we were really bummed. And frankly, I was happy that I still had a day job, and so yeah, uh, at least I was not starving. But then the strangest thing happened. Uh, just out of nowhere, people who were writing about WordPress would also look up other people doing backups for WordPress, and they would find our product. So there were other products, there were free products, there were plugins like Backup Buddy, which released around the same time. And there was us. We also were a SaaS. So again, we got compared to WordPress, and and we didn't have a waiting queue, right? So uh, people wrote about BlogVault too as they were covering WordPress, and because of this, we got our first customers, and yeah, that's a great feeling. So as an entrepreneur, you have a strong desire to invent something new. And frankly, when I started BlogVault, I thought I was inventing something new, but uh, over time, we have realized that if you are entering an existing market and people are aware of the problem, then it becomes much easier for you to get customers. The worst thing that you can do is try and educate the market about about the problem, because educating the customers about the problem is very slow and painful. And as a startup, you rarely have that much time or resources available to you. So this was a great learning for us. And so now we get on to the third big mistake, which is we ignored marketing. Now, so we had WordPress, we had people writing about WordPress, we had customers coming in, customers paying for our product, but yeah, so in some ways we had like product market fit, where the customers uh, had this problem with backing up their website, and we were solving it for them. So what's the number one advice you get when you get product market fit? That you need to scale up marketing, you need to scale up sales, or you need to now start going after the market and capturing it. But we did not scale marketing. Instead, we got obsessed with making every backup work. So backups on the surface look like a fairly simple problem. You have a website, how difficult can it be to backup a website? But you have backup websites hosted on, yeah, all sorts of hosting. And if you look back in 2010, it was lot worse than it is today. But so websites are hosted on hosting with very limited resources, and uh, if your website is large, then it is very difficult to back it up. And we started obsessing over making each and every backup work. Similarly, whenever you require to restore a website, we wanted to, having every restore work was equally challenging. And we were, every single error we got, we were chasing it down and fixing it. Then there was this thing called migrations, where frankly, going in, we didn't even know that migrations was even a thing with WordPress. But then we had a customer who would chase us until we made sure that his websites were migrated correctly. And I remember I spent a whole vacation fixing the URL rewrite uh, for migration. So where he was migrating sites from staging to or development to his production, and he would face all these issues. So while he saw that we were able to copy all the data correctly, but there were these issues which with the changes we had to make, and then it became an obsession with us, and we spent a lot of time fixing all of these problems. But this time we were spending, well, like there was months being spent, and these months turned to years, and we are still fixing each and every little error that we would see. And this was not a, like, from a playbook perspective or from a building a company perspective, this was not a good thing because our competitors raced ahead. They ignored the niche. These large websites were a niche. People, so they ignored these failed backups or failing restores, and instead they focused on capturing the bigger market. Uh, and We were a paid product only. We were a premium product, so that obviously did not help our cause at all in capturing the market share. But the customers who purchased us and who had tried all these other products which had failed, but had seen us make those backups work, they really loved us. And that's what kept us going. And we kept making some money, like the customers kept trickling in thanks to these articles. Uh, and soon we had customers referring other customers too. And these customers stuck around even for years. And again, if you're building a SaaS business, you want to have customers who love you and who stick around for years. And so that was the silver lining here. But even today, our market share is abysmal uh, compared to all the competitors out there who have millions and millions of installs. So this brings us to the next mistake we made. Uh, if you talk to any salesperson, they'll be like following. You need to follow up, and the more you follow up, the more likely you are to succeed in selling something. And I did not follow up during sales. And let me tell you a great story around this. So uh, I'm sure all of you already know of Jason Cohen. He's the founder of WP Engine. He was yeah, I've been following him, and I'm like a fan of his for over 10 years. He had started WP Engine around the same time, in 2009 or 10, and in one of the podcasts he had appeared on in the, I think, 2013 timeframe or 2012, he had mentioned that one of the biggest problems WP Engine faced was with migration. So customers would purchase a WP Engine account, but they would get stuck while migrating sites. And if you remember, a light bulb went off in my head because that customer of mine who who forced us to fix our migrations, we realized that we do migrations really, really well, and maybe WP Engine uh, can use our technology in some capacity. So like I mentioned, the lack of migrations was causing high churn for WP Engine. Now, in 2013, at WordCamp San Francisco, I happened to meet Jason, and yeah, we speak about the migrations problem, and he's quite excited about the problem. And so I take his card, and I send him a mail. I don't think I heard back from him then. So my guess was that okay, he's not really interested in it, and I did not follow up. 1 year goes by, we are fixing backups and making it even better, making restores even better. 2014 WordCamp happens. Uh, again, I bump into Jason, and again we have almost a similar conversation. This time, again, I mail him. I think he replies back once. I mail him again, and then I don't hear from him, so I don't follow up. And yeah, that I think was a very big mistake because WP Engine obviously was scaling very, very fast, and uh, yeah, I'm sure Jason had a million things on his head, so I should have continued following up. But then a miracle happened. We literally got help from angels, and one of our customers who had been around with us for a couple of years, they had the WP Engine CEO Heather visiting them in UK, and they convinced WP Engine to work with us. Yeah, it sounds really strange, and it is. But they didn't even know in what capacity WP Engine could work with us. But they were like, okay, we have this company we work with, and they do a great job. Maybe there's something there. And so they made an introduction. They sent an introduction mail, and we took it from there. And so we were then able to partner with WP Engine and make their migration plugin. And for this, I'll always be thankful to Vinita and Tom from Holgren Digital, who I think who played a very pivotal role for us where we are today. Had we not had WP Engine partnering with us, maybe the trajectory of the company would have been very, very different. But yeah, again, you can see some very obvious mistakes being made, and we got lucky and recovered from it. This brings us to my next mistake, and which is where so we had this WP Engine partnership going, and we were able to sign on other uh, hosting companies like Pantheon, Flywheel, and Cloudways, and the rest. And things on the backup front were really picking up. But at that time, you would have thought that okay, we're going to double down on it. Instead, the mistake we made was we lost focus. And so while people were uh, restoring websites, we would ask them why are they restoring websites, and uh, they would tell us that the number one reason they were doing it was because the sites would get hacked. And it's another story altogether where why you should never restore from a backup to recover from a hack. But yeah, I'll leave that aside. Uh, so we would help them out and we would inspect what is going on, and they would be hacked despite having security plugins, and they would be hacked for months before even they realized that they had been hacked. And because we had this history of backups, we were able to show them that okay, they had been hacked like 6 months ago, and one fine day the hack lights up and causes their website to crash. So, so yeah, it was an intriguing problem as to why this is happening, and we thought there's an opportunity to fix this and solve this for the customers. And so there was a mentor I would consult from time to time, and his advice was obvious. See, you've got BlogVault, you have got this partnership with these hosting companies going, you have you're building a brand slowly and steadily, you should be focusing on BlogVault and backups and don't get distracted from it. And it makes sense on the surface of it. And his advice was that we should now focus on gaining market share. But alas, you know how things are as an entrepreneur. You sometimes you are just too bullish on things, or some problems really, uh, yeah, uh, really keep you awake at night. So we ignored the advice. It was an impossibly difficult problem to solve. Now we realize that okay, this is the reason why the other security plugins were not able to solve the problem well. It was very difficult finding malware which is hidden in all forms on a WordPress website is a non-trivial problem. It took us 18 months of like hard rigor before we had anything. We had 3 engineers who worked on it, quit on it. And you can imagine we're like a very, very limited, like I think we have 4 or 5 people then. And 3 engineers, one after in sequence, working on it because we are not making any progress whatsoever. So we're losing focus on backups. We're chasing this new shiny object. And the new shiny object we didn't even know was anything or not. Like it was a very, very uh, yeah, stupid thing to do, I would say, in hindsight. But then we started seeing light at the end of the tunnel. Something happened like 18 months in. We started some of our experiments started working, and we started catching malware which were missed by everyone. And this was fantastic. So then we finally had the optimism, and I think looking back, this was pivotal moment for us, where uh, where we put in this effort and the effort really paid off. And today, MalCare with its scanning and cleaning is one of the biggest drivers of growth for us. So, in conclusion, today we are a multi-million dollar ARR company uh, and growing very, very rapidly. We are growing faster than we ever have. Uh, we think we can grow even faster, and so we are investing in it. Our team is growing faster than ever. We had our best month ever last month, and I think we'll have our best month ever this month again, and hopefully the next month again. So yeah, we a lot of things are coming together. We have some of the biggest agencies as our customers: GoWP, WP Buff, SiteCare, Valet, yeah, and a bunch of agencies all around the world. They're all using our products, and we have some of the biggest names in WordPress ecosystem with the hosting company. There are customers and partners too. WP Engine, Pantheon, Cloudways, Flywheel, Liquid Web, Dreamhost. These are all household names in the WordPress ecosystem, and they are all our customers. And finally, the icing on the cake. Remember, WordPress and the makers of WordPress Automatic, they too are our customers. So yeah, it's been quite a ride, and and you can see the number of mistakes we have made, and that's just some of the mistakes we have made. I'm sure there are a lot more than that, and there will be many more. So that's it from me. Thank you.
Akshat, that was amazing. Thank you so much. If you have not already, everybody, remember, go ahead and leave your questions in the chat so that Akshat and I could answer them. Akshat, thank you so much for being here live to answer these questions with me. Are you ready to get started?
Yes, absolutely. So
awesome. All right. So let's jump into the first question. All right, question number 1 from ATT East. What do you believe are the most effective security plugins and malware scanners? So tool recommendations here.
So, I'm the wrong person to ask to answer these questions because I'm extremely, extremely biased. Right? When you build something, you invariably get biased towards it. So, if you're looking for a paid solution, yeah, I would highly recommend you check out MalCare. If you're looking for like a firewall, a cloud-based firewall, look at Cloudflare. If you're looking for a um, free security plugin, I would recommend going with WordFence. It does put load on your site, but I think it does a lot of things right. What I would try and avoid are, these plugins which give you 50 100 ways of securing your site, and that's just the wrong way of doing it. It just gives you a sense of security, but it does not really secure your site. Like if you see the ways in which sites get hacked, the overlap between what some of the security plugins do, and I don't want to name any of them, but I guess if you explore around, you'll see the ones which do this. You'll see that they the overlap on what they can protect is minuscule. Whereas what you really need to protect your site, uh, requires something like a MalCare or a WordFence or a Cloudflare. And none of these solutions, let me be clear, even MalCare is not foolproof. So you can still get hacked. If anyone tells you that it's foolproof security, they're just fooling you. So you need appropriate measures in place, have backups for sure, because things can completely go wrong. And in that case, only backups will save you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's such a good distinction to make. Danielle has asked, well, she says, thank you for sharing, which I second that. And she asks, mistakes aside, what are 3 things that you feel that you did well?
So yeah, this is something which I have thought a lot about, right? And first one is obviously gotten very, very lucky. That's that's something which you can't take away, the luck factor, because I've tried other things in the past, and I tried them with the exact same optimism and effort, and they didn't work out.
Yeah.
So, and here being a complete outsider, I was still able to make things work. So as much credit I would like to take, the reality is luck plays a very, very big role. Okay. But taking that apart, which is completely outside your control, maybe we can come back to that. But luck is outside your control. Assuming luck is outside your control, I think this is something, and especially if you're addressing WordPress space, is there's still scope for quality products, and this is something which we got right. Where if you build a quality product, and you see, like, every now and then, even in the most crowded spaces, you will see a quality product really make its own mark.
Yeah.
For example, you have Rank Math, which is a SEO plugin, and going up against Yoast, which basically, Yoast rules the market, but Rank Math is still able to make to capture some of it, and it's growing pretty rapidly. So if you have a quality product, and if you invest in it, and something like, I think we did very, very much with MalCare, with BlogVault, as well as with WP Remote. All of these we think are quality products, and we are investing in it. So that's the one thing which I always suggest, that go ahead and invest in building a quality product. It doesn't matter what the competitor is. And that's what I covered in my presentation also, that you at least have a fair chance. It might be a slightly longer road. And so this brings me to the third point. I think I was patient. And it might be my personality that I was patient. I don't mind getting rich over a few years. I don't need to get rich overnight. And it's a very crass way of saying it, but that it's okay. Like, getting rich when you're 5 years down the line, you're not going to be like, okay, fine, I still made money, and I'm still going to be happy about it, right? So be patient, and hopefully things will work out.
That's awesome advice. Ian asks, was BlogVault ever intended to be an easy way for plugin support teams to make staging sites, or was that a mistake?
No, so actually, so a lot of these things, none of this was planned. Okay, so it's not that, okay, I had this, but we just had customers come up and start using our service for such purposes. So we had, I think Skyverge started using it for that purpose. And one fine day they came in and they started asking us for, okay, can you support this? Can you support? And we're like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And we started building that out. But okay, originally it was not supposed to be. It's definitely not a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Would I go out of my way to build extra features for this? Possibly not, because it's a limited market. Uh, but nonetheless, in will as just being part of the community, and also, okay, so this is actually a good story. So I used Skyverge as an example, and so just the other day they referred us this really nice customer with WooCommerce site doing. They're like, okay, you need staging, go and use BlogVault, because they are so familiar with our product. So being part of the ecosystem, having other people in the ecosystem use your product
Mm-hmm.
and recommend it has worked out. Obviously, you will not get thousands and thousands of customers, but you will get this stream of customers coming in because of this.
Yeah, that's lovely. Alrighty, and then this is the last question we have. So while Akshat is answering this one, we can probably take one or two more. Nancy asks, any chance you all will tackle the spam problem? So many tools are not compatible with Forms and Akismet. And CAPTCHA, I think she is trying to say. Can you speak to that at all?
So we have not addressed spam, at least until now, head on. But what we are doing with this is a feature which we launched recently with one of our big hosting partners, Cloudways. So we built this functionality for them, wherein our firewall does bot protection for your for all sites hosted on Cloudways. So bots are a very, very big problem when it comes to websites. And I was actually quite astounded to see that 50% of all traffic to a website are bots. Okay, and spam. Most of the spam is not some human being typing this in, but they're mostly bots.
Yeah.
So through our bot protection, we are addressing spam for sure, and we are blocking them out. And you will see that it's getting blocked out not only for the WP WordPress comment spam, but also all the other types of such as forms and the likes. We are blocking them out. Is this like the perfect spam plugin? Possibly not at least not as of now. But I think it solves to a great extent, especially from these bots which are scarring the internet. So yeah, that's our approach of solving this problem.
Alrighty, and we have from Anonymous. They ask, can you share some ways that your long-term thinking, like what you were talking about getting rich over a longer period of time than overnight, how does that influence your decision-making process?
So again, like I said, it's now that you read it out again, it sounds very, very crass, but hopefully you guys understand the basic intention, right? And so yeah, so my long-term thinking. Okay, so there are a few ways of looking at it, right? One is assuming I'm all in on WordPress. Actually, that's one of the big things that if you see all our products, you'll see that it's all about WordPress. So people often ask us whether we'll do other things or not, and we're like, no, we are focused on WordPress. Yeah. And you might think that how is that related to to long-term thinking and the decision making? So the reason why and they say that what if WordPress goes away? So I'm like, see, you had Nokia and RIM, BlackBerry just disappear, essentially disappear within a small period of time and they could not really control it. So given the small fish I cannot control it. But I'm going to assume that as long as WordPress is going to do well, and my sense of it is that in the foreseeable future, I see it doing well. I'm going to start just continuously build products and improve every day, so that as the products improve every day, as our marketing improves every day, we will benefit. So we don't need to capture everything right now.
Yeah.
It's if we were short-term thinking, then we would try and capture and move really fast and capture everything right now. But instead, we're like, okay, no, things can happen. We can't control it, but assuming things do take their own pace, and which we are hoping it does, because in that case we are well uh, we are well positioned uh, uh, to benefit from the compounding effects of these investments that we are making.
Yeah. I love that. I love the kind of sentiment behind that, almost of, it's almost like a faith. Like there's a faith that, yes, tomorrow WordPress will still be here and we are going to plan that for the foreseeable future. WordPress will still be here. I love that. That's awesome. Thank you,
Thank
Akshat,
you.
so much. That was the last question that we have. So we are going to go ahead and get ready for the next session. Where can people find you, Akshat, if they have more questions about BlogVault or MalCare or any other wonderful things that you do?
All right, so thank you, Ali, again for
Of
having me,
course.
and thank you everyone for sitting through my presentation. You can find me at Akshat C on Twitter.
Okay.
I'm not a very public person, but yeah, you can do check out our products at blogvault.net, blogvault.net, and malcare.com,
Awesome.
malcare.com.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, have a great rest of your day, Akshat. Thank you so much.
You too.
Bye-bye.